So we have signed all the documents in the closing package. Your cash to close, the money that you're bringing to close, has been brought and has been deposited. And so here we go. So in this process, the escrow officer is going to be walking in and out, and then they're going to be waiting on the lender. And eventually, the lender's going to send an email saying you're okay to fund, because the lender's money is sitting at the title company, or at least it should be. And the lender's got to tell the title company you're okay to pull the trigger, and the money gets sent, and the seller gets made whole, because the buyer's buying from the seller with the money from the buyer and from the lender, right? So that money gets transferred to the seller right when the lender says you're good to go. So at that point, the escrow officer is probably going to walk out of the room. He or she's going to come into the room. She's going to have some checks. She's going to give a check to the realtors. She's going to give a check to the attorneys, and any overage that you had, meaning any extra money that they didn't use to the transaction, they're going to bring you a check too. So that brings us to this final point, which is always bring at least $500 more than what the lender says the cash to close is, because remember, these are all done by human beings and people make mistakes. So usually bringing an extra $500 to $1,000 if you can in your wire or in your cashier's check is good. You'll get the money right back at the closing table in the form of a check that everybody will honor. So at the end of it, you're gonna get your keys, you're gonna get up, you're gonna walk out, and boom, you own a property. So let's review everything that we've talked about so far. So we've gone from offer to close. The offer, you've made an offer with your realtor on a property that's got a realtor representing the seller, and the offer was accepted. Boom, your offer is accepted. You put down some earnest money, you sign contracts, everybody signs it, you get an inspection done immediately. There's a 5-day attorney review period. Simultaneously, you get your loan in process, and you give your lender the address. The address makes the file flip into a real transaction, a real deal, and the lender takes an appraisal deposit and moves your file, asks for documents, then moves your file over into processing and moves your file over into underwriting, all at the same time. Okay? Then as these things are happening, home inspection takes place, home inspector gives you a heart attack, but then your realtor calms you down and says it's fine, and then you talk to your spouse and they say it's fine, we'll ask for credits, or we'll fix it ourselves, or whatever. We want this property, we want this neighborhood, we want these schools for our kids, whatever. You go through the process and you say, okay, we're still gonna buy the property. And so the attorney review period ends, and you go past that point. Back to the loan, you are now in underwriting, and the appraisal is about to be scheduled with the listing agent, and that takes place. You get your conditional approval. You get these list of conditions that you've got to satisfy with you and the processor as you work through it. And in the meantime, the appraisal gets done, and the appraisal will be either at the purchase price, it'll be above the purchase price, or it'll be below the purchase price, and you have to deal with all of those things differently. Let's assume that it's a big assumption, but let's assume that you've gotten those things done, and you've settled out on the purchase price, you settle out on who's going to pay for what, you get clear to close, you've met all the conditions from underwriting, you get clear to close from the underwriter, you get a CD from the closing department, now your loan goes into the closing department quadrant, you get the CD from the closer, you've looked at it, you've reviewed it with your loan officer, you go to the closing, you sign, you pay, you get your keys, and boom, you're a homeowner. So congratulations. And that's the process basically, okay? Now, we can go into a lot of different details, and I do. There's in other places on my website, depending on when you're watching this, there should be a huge archive of each individual part of the process as it relates to purchase. But this whole thing was kind of guided for you to get a little bit more familiar with the process itself. Again, we didn't cover everything in detail, but I think this gives you a really good sort of glimpse as to all the things that could potentially happen, or typically do happen during the process. All right, Jody.gerut, AskMortgageQuestions.com. Thanks so much for watching, and give me a call. You can always reach out to me, 630-302-2700, and I'd be happy to look into where you're at in the process, and if you're ready to do a purchase or refinance. Again, serious, not curious. Reach out to me. Otherwise, you can email me as well, and you can visit me at AskMortgageQuestions.com and submit questions. If you want to be in business together as a referral partner, I'm always open for business in that respect. We can always sit down and talk on the phone or in person. Always welcome. But give me a call, send me an email. Thanks for participating. Take care.